What up? This is Myron, and you are listening or watching the Rye Bread and Mustard of Mariners podcast, that down on the docks on the other side of the tracks, 5-star dive bar podcast of and about the Seattle Mariners that we can guarantee, okay, we are the least boring Mariners podcast out there. All right. There's a lot of them. Mariners podcasting it's not a fun time right now, but we're back. We've taken quite a bit of a break because we just felt like it. It's a long season. And let's be honest, until this last week, until we heard that Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander were outside the Dollar Tree or the grocery outlet bargain market or the Big Lots making some big moves for the Mariners, we didn't have much to talk about, but we're back talking about Donovan Solano, some of the other trades. Also, we haven't talked in a while, so we are going to run it back and talk about the passing of Ricky Henderson. We also had the passing here of Bob Uecker, so we're going to talk about that. And guess what? If you haven't heard, if you haven't looked up, Roki Sasaki not going to even entertain the thought of being a Mariner. Anyways, we're going to talk about all that and much, much more here on the Rye Bread and Mustard of Mariners podcast. We're going to do that right after this. All right, so we had to Frankenstein this episode together. Just want to let you know that as you start this episode, Hannah was having some internet issues up there in Edmonds. We got on the Roadcaster, but then Vlad couldn't hear it. So we did some parts, me and Vlad, and then me and Hannah did it. So this is Frankenstein together. Hopefully it all goes together. What does this mean for you? You guys might not notice, but it made a lot of fucking work for me. Anyways, what's going on? What is going on with the grumpiest Mariners fan in Mariners sports entertainment going today? What's up, Hanno?
Hey, man. Good to talk to you again. It was sure nice seeing you when you invited me down last week to your place for the Hawk game, big Hawk win, and get a chance to take me over to Dodger Stadium and go to the team store. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
You wanted to go over there in case the place burnt down. You got right out of town the day it was all starting down here.
Yeah, man. I never felt wind like that when AT and I were taking off and heading home. It was a rocky flight out of Burbank, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. That's also a reason why we didn't record last week. Also had to leave for a day or so, but I'm back up here in Hollywood, in the Hollywood area, right by Griffith Park. But yeah, I was 1 block away from the evacuation zone. I think they ended up putting us in it, but it was a mandatory one from 1 block over. But yeah, you did get to go to Dodger Stadium. We're gonna go check out a game there this year during that San Diego trip. Or San Diego series. We're going to hit up both stadiums. Yeah. So anyways, we're like I was mentioning, we are Frankensteining this episode together. So here's the rundown of the episode. We're going to jump in and just put to bed all this Roki Sasaki. We have our thoughts on it. Vlad has his as a Yankee. Yankees are also not on that list. And then you and I talked about Donovan Solano. We talked about the other signings and little trades and the little low-level stuff that only Mariners fans would know about. And not all Mariners fans might know about it because they aren't big names. We also going to talk a little bit about Ricky Henderson and Bob Uecker. So I'll do my best of kind of sewing all of this shit together, and let's jump right into the Roki Sasaki shit right after this.
Get ready to play hardball in the Kingdome.
Take me to the ball game. I want to see the Ants. The Mariners are playing hardball. Did it again and again and again. Did it again.
Princess Tours, the vacation company, brings you the best show in baseball when the San Diego Chicken plays hardball with the Seattle Mariners and the Baltimore Orioles tonight in the Kingdome.
We have something in common, though, Vlad. It seems that we are both not on Roki Sasaki's list as a Mariners fan and a Yankees fan. What do you got to say about that?
I'm really getting sick of this shit with these Japanese players. Like, I mean, we had the two best guys, Ichiro and Matsui, for the 2000s, the beginning of the 2000s. And now it's like we're not even on anybody's final list. First, Ohtani burns you guys. Okay, he wanted to go to the Angels. Who knows what happened there. Kind of a safe place to play. But now all of a sudden he started this whole movement where the Dodgers basically have first dibs on these guys. And I get it that Darvish is there. And there is certain cultural things I understand too. Like, how would you feel if you were on a team where you couldn't speak to anybody really on your team except your trainer who might rob you blind?
Yeah.
I mean, your interpreter who might rip you off. They got a bad, they kind of got a bad shit.
They got a black eye right now for interpreter. Yeah, there's a black eye. Yes, there's a huge black eye right now for interpreters still from last season. Can't be great for the industry.
Right, but that being said, so if it's like, well, maybe if you really want to have a shot at some of these, good, and especially these younger guys, like this guy's going to be making peanuts, right out the gate, kind of like Ohtani was. So like, you really do want to be in on there. And if the Yankees and you guys for being, basically just as close to Japan and you got and Ichiro's legacy, for us to not even be on that list, it's just like, maybe we got to sign somebody just so that they have a friend. I don't know. I mean, I'm getting sick of this, New York is so much further away from Japan when you're on a private jet. And like, what's another 4 or 5 hours?
Right. After you've already traveled how many hours?
And that's for us. I mean, I think it's like 3.5 hours on a private jet from LA to New York. So,
well, yeah, and you're coming from Japan already. So it's like you've already done the 16, 17. Well, I don't know how many hours.
Pop in another anime episode. You know what I mean? Get your shit going.
Well, yeah, it is.
Pull up a gambling site. Whatever it is you got to do to, I mean, for us to just not even be, come on, the Mets, you know what I mean? Like they're trying to make splashes now. They got money. You might say, hey, let me go there and then, rip them off in the long run.
Yeah, the three teams that he's brought it down to. So if we're watching The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, the final three that's standing there waiting for the rose are, of course, the LA Dodgers, the San Diego Padres, and Toronto Blue Jays.
I mean, the Blue Jays were always on everybody's like fake list too. Ohtani had them on there to the end. Yamamoto, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I find this pretty funny though. Let me show you this let me show you something from the Mariners point of view. Mariners fan, what we're taking in. If you go to, I'll pull this up, the Seattle Times, and you just kind of scroll down their, page of Mariners news. It's awfully depressing. I mean, it's probably hard to write an article or give a headline, an intriguing headline, but you can see that
shit
right
out
there.
Of the air.
Yeah, but this is pretty funny to me. On January 13th, 2025, just a couple days ago, at 11:50 a.m., you see the headline right there. Are the Mariners the mystery team in the sweepstakes for Japanese pitching phenom? It's an article about it. There's a scenario. And we scroll up here. Same day, January 13th, 3:25 p.m. Mariners not among reported finalists for pitching phenom. So that article, that poor article,
That guy just had a
had
deadline.
yeah. Who wrote this? Let's see who wrote this. Adam Jude, reputable Mariners reporter, and then he probably wrote this scenario out like, oh, this is gonna get some hits. You got less than 3.5 hours of shelf time. Let's see who follows it up. Oh, Jude, at least he got the follow-up story on that. He was like, fuck, I gotta write another article. I thought, yeah, you'd figure as a Mariners reporter, you'd go, oh, well, we know he's not gonna do it. I'm gonna write this piece up. As a writer, I won't have to do anything for a couple of days. No, 4 hours later. But yeah, he's not coming to the Mariners, and I'm sure Hanno would agree. We already knew that. It's also, you look at the Mariners pitching staff, and if he was to come onto the pitching staff, I don't know, he'd be somewhere back of the rotation, middle of the rotation. Oh, we don't know. But
I think everybody's going to 6-man rotation sooner than we all think.
Really,
I personally think that if I bought the Yankees tomorrow, I would start doing a 6-man. All these guys make way too much, get hurt way too much. They throw way too hard. Everything is fastball, sliders, sweepers. Japan does a 6-day rotation. There's only a couple older guys who, would have a big issue with it, and maybe you work around them. But if it was me, I would have a 6-man and then chop it down to, 5 by the end of the season and then 4 for the playoffs. But so, maybe if you add him, that makes it real easy because that's his normal day. But
all right, so you heard what Vlad's got to say about Roki Sasaki. When did you give up on this, or did you ever think this was going to happen, considering that the Mariners and anybody could afford him? What are your thoughts on this? The Mariners being bounced out of this group.
Well, not only bounced out, not even given a chance. I mean, the Mariners are an unserious organization. It's coming out where national writers are writing about them. You mentioned in 3 cities in North America that he has his finalists in Toronto, San Diego, and LA. All 3 of those teams are top organizations that are looking to win. The Mariners just aren't. And from the very beginning, I didn't think that he would even want to come here. Yeah, it's going to be a low AAV for him this year, but the team surrounded, if he was to come here, they're just unserious. I mean, those days of Ichiro, Sasaki, and Joachim are over. I mean, a reason why those guys wanted to come here, too, we got to remember former Mariner president and owner, Mr. Imauchi, he had a big deal in, getting Ichiro to come here and then those other guys as well. He's no longer involved when the president of Nintendo sold out on their share of the Mariners. And like I said, I just keep coming back to how the Mariners are just unserious. They're not a winning franchise. They don't look to win. And those other places are way more attractive than the Seattle Mariners.
True. What do you take on the Toronto Blue Jays? Do you agree with Vlad? They're always on everybody's fake list. They're just kind of thrown on there when it comes to these big free agents.
Yeah, I think Toronto as a city is a great place to live, but yeah, that could be. They're willing to. They want to win, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because it's in Canada or what. They're just unable to get these top-notch players to sign on the dotted line and come up there and add to their team. I mean, they got some good starting pitching with Guzman, not Guzman. He used to be there. Grossman.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I mean, that's a good point there. They're always in on these guys, but they can never seal the deal.
Yeah, they're always in on it. It seems like the Mariners are always in on it, and then it's always reported that then this person's like, what? It's kind of like they don't even. It's like the mean person at school, the mean girl or whatever. Let's just say like high school, the hot girl that you're just in love with, and you're just like, oh, maybe I'm gonna ask her to the dance, and you're building up your confidence to do that, and you're like, nope, we had this interaction. I think it's gonna happen, and then they don't even know who you are, right? And that's what this feels like with Sasaki. Like, we who? No, 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 no. We don't have time for that. Yeah, so we're putting this to bed finally as Mariners fans. He's not coming here. Where do you think he's gonna land?
Either LA or San Diego.
Me too. I don't
And
think
those were the first two teams that kind of came out in the beginning that reported those were the ones probably to land him for whatever reason. You know, they're both on the West Coast, and I know that bothers Vlad, but also they're contenders and two great cities to live in.
yeah, I'm going to say he's going to end up on the Dodgers. It's just gonna be just the rich get richer right there with that. And look, they can afford it. I think they with him, they're not gonna have to defer it for 6 or 7 or 8 years. Maybe they do. Maybe they've spent
Yeah,
all their money and they got to do that. But they're gonna pay him what.
and then that Otani factor is big too.
Yeah, huge. And imagine him being there right now. This isn't the contract; it's what comes after this. Imagine you're a multi-time world champion already. Maybe been in the Cy Young race. Maybe win the Cy Young. We might turn around and this guy might be getting like Otani kind of money in a few years. You never know. They call him the LeBron James of the Japanese league. That's a lot to live up to, but also they wouldn't just call him that for nothing.
Yeah, he just absolutely throws cheddar, I heard. So it'll be interesting to see how he adapts. But I'm sure whatever city, like you said, the Dodgers, he fit in real well with all the rest of their superstars.
Supercross this weekend in the Kingdom. The Coors Beer Supercross doubleheader. Get ready, Seattle, this Saturday night at 7:30 and Sunday afternoon at 2. The 1988 A&A Supercross Tour, Motorcycle Mania, on an incredible dirt battleground that treats man and machine the same way. With absolutely no respect. See the best. National champion Jeff Ward, former champion Ricky Johnson. Tickets at all Ticketmaster locations, including the Bond, Tower Records and Video, and participating Honda dealers. The Coors Beer Supercross.
Let's start with the biggest signing of the free agency year. God, Donovan Solano.
Don't know too much about him, just kind of what I've read, you know, a solid hitter. 37 years of age. The Mariners are kind of have been looking a lot at these older type veteran players. I know we didn't talk about it, but we will some other time when we refresh how this offseason went, you know, with them looking at Santana. But back to Solano, has had a good year, solid hitter. I mean, makes contact, which is good. Mariners need some contact in their lineup. Only had about 300 plate appearances. The thing that concerns me about him is the Mariners probably, like they like to do, get these role players and put them in a more predominant role. Not only, I mean, out of necessity, because that's the kind of team they've had to put together. So I just feel like I could see a season where he might take a step back because they're going to use him so much more, and he's going to get so many more plate appearances than just, you know, his basic 300 that he got last year in San Diego. And was just a nice piece to plug into a lineup, and it's put together a lot better than the Mariners. I see the Mariners, you know, the way it's going right now, with him probably splitting some time over at first base, but then also splitting some time at third, maybe with the new guy that the Mariners brought back from Shelton from Tampa. So he isn't much of a second baseman. What I was reading, mostly first and third, and I'm mentioning those three positions because that's kind of where the holes are right now with how the Mariners have been constructed here in 2025. But The big key is he puts the ball in play and he makes good contact, and he's got a really good, decent average compared to what most guys' averages are now in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, Donovan Solano. I got to be honest, never heard of him. But he has been playing baseball in the major leagues for a good part of 12 years. You look at last year's numbers and you go, you're right. He doesn't have the at bats, just under 300 at bats, but 286 looks pretty nice. A career 279. And I go back to the years before this. Doesn't have a lot of at bat. I think the most at bats he's had in a season was 2013. He almost had 400 at bats. So this guy seems like he's averaging somewhere around how many at bats he got last year. But going back to when he started playing his, let's see, 2014, he played 111 games. 2023, he played 134. And in between that, somewhere around 100 games. But you look at his average since 2019, he hit, let's see, 81 games, hit 330. The next year, he played 150. Let's see. Yeah. No, sorry. Screwed that up. In the shortened 2020 season, 326. Then followed up that with a 280, a 284, a 282, 286, career 279. And you're right. This is somebody that where you plug him in and you play him in a lineup that he's hitting down in the lineup. He's not asked to do too much except for put the ball in play. This is great. He doesn't have to play every day. But yes, you're saying, again, the Mariners have a track record of finding these guys and being like, well, hey, we're depending on you big time. And that's not somebody that he's been. And you look at the age, yeah, he's getting up there as far as baseball years. But this is what you'd be doing if you were going to get, Justin Turner, different type of player. This is what you would be doing or looking at if you were going to get Carlos Santana, which you didn't. So this is right where the Mariners, it's not surprising. This is right where we thought they would be with signing people.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there, brother. I mean, he's not a household name, that's for sure. And yeah, somebody that I remember hearing his name, but not too much about him. But yeah, and for that to be the first major signing or only free agent signing this offseason for the Mariners, it is disappointing. But as the Mariners would say, it's their kind of player. He's a baseball player, he'll give you good at bats. He's consistent. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. Hopefully he continues what he's been like the last couple of years. But like I said, my main worry is them overextending him and trying to get more out of him from what his track record's been.
Yeah. Again, I'll keep echoing what we've been saying here. If you play this guy and plug him in a lineup and you see him, come into games, pinch hit, start against, let's see, left-handed pitching, especially, we're going to be all right with him in this role. If you have him extend again, like we've said, it doesn't really feel good. But nonetheless, I feel like the Mariners have gotten better with this guy. If he wasn't the first big move that they've made, or we have to go, this is the biggest signing of the offseason. If you take away those things and you just look at what the Mariners' needs are, he does fill a need. And I think this will be something to look at. Hey, and in the last couple of years, let's see, Colton Wong got a lot more money than this guy. Obviously, Mitch Garver got a lot more money than this guy. So it is a low risk. You don't have a lot of money to use. So what's this, the $3 million guy? So I think for what he is and the cost that he is, I think it was a good signing.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he'll help us out. It'd be to me if the Mariners went out and added some more, true bats, which we all as Mariner fans were hoping for. Yeah, this would be just like a nice little cherry on top of the off season, but obviously, so far, this off season has been disappointing, and from us fans over the last few years, things haven't worked out. But yeah, he is a nice little piece, and hopefully, he will help out this team this year.
And then the Mariners also add some depth, acquiring utility player Miles Mastrobuoni. Another person I'm like, I don't know much about him. Why? Because his numbers aren't great. Why would you? In 118 combined games, 219, 279, 263 slash line with a whopping 54 hits and 272 plate appearances. I'll stop reading all of the other not so great or jump out at you numbers. This doesn't do anything for me.
No, I mean, it just to me sounds like another utility player who the Mariners seem to focus on, and probably a guy to come in and replace in the organization like a Sam Haggerty or something. You know, I mean, what do we expect out of him, and what do I expect? Not much, but we'll see. I mean, the Mariners play roster roulette with a lot of things. Getting these minor leaguers or guys with not too big of a track record, and we'll see. Maybe one of them will pop, but I'm not expecting much out of him.
And also, since the last time we talked, the Mariners have claimed reliever Hagen Danner off of waivers from Toronto. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews from Toronto fans about this guy. A lot of people really enjoyed this guy. As far as the pitching, when the Mariners pick somebody up with the pitching, I don't even need to look at their numbers. I will take the benefit of the doubt of them picking up somebody that has been put on waivers, or an organization doesn't know what to do with them. Maybe they don't have great numbers. I'm willing to see what Pete Woodworth and Dan Wilson and everybody can do with this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Mariners have a track record of pulling these guys out from the scrap heap and, making something out of them and really getting the most out of them. So I agree with you there. It'll be interesting to see how the Mariners will turn this guy into one of their seventh-inning leverage guys, that has a really good year and that Dan Wilson's going to count on to come out of the pen and hold the opposition down. So, yeah, I agree with you. The Mariners have been good at that. It's one thing that they've been really good at, and as Mariner fans, something that we have confidence in them doing.
Another thing that we just got to quickly touch on. I know it's kind of day old bread news, but we haven't talked since the arbitration results came back. We kind of knew what was going on. We knew some more money was going to Randy Rosarena. He got a bump up from 7.5 to 8 million to almost 11.5 million. Logan Gilbert's getting 7.6. George Kirby's getting 4.3. Kyle Raleigh, big jump up to 5.6. Saucedo almost up to $1 million. Gabe Spire 8.5. Trent Thornton 2 years. So right there, the Mariners had some expected, but what do you think about these arbitration numbers?
Yeah, I mean, it's something probably that the Mariners were, was reported where they only had about 16 million to spend on free agents. So they were probably counting on a big bump from a lot of these guys. Kind of from I've read on the arbitration was that It was about as expected. Logan was maybe a little bit less than what was expected, not by much, but for me, just seeing Cal get that big bump, what he deserves. I mean, he's not even getting as much as he deserves right now, and what he puts out for this Mariner club. But really, really happy to see him getting a nice chunk of change. And yeah, so
They
I
still
think
have
the
these
Mariners.
guys cheap. These guys are still cheap. Like this is
Oh
still
yeah, I
cheap.
mean,
This is still cheap for all the talent that you have right there.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, these guys when they get to their free agent years, especially with our pitchers of Logan and Kirby, I mean they're going to be big free agents and going to get a lot of money. So that's why I feel like the Mariners, and like you mentioned, are really in the driver's seat. And it's just unfortunate they're not taking advantage of it right now with the payroll on the pitching side. And same with Cal. But yeah, definitely. I don't see the Mariners being able to keep all those guys, at that time.
Rye Bread and Mustard, a Mariners podcast.
We have the one and only Mr. Tom Hutler. Do you have any of your favorite stories from the Kingdom?
There was a time we had an earthquake, and so they were going to evacuate the building. So I was like getting up to go leave, and they go, "No, you can't go. You got to read these
Safety things.
It's like,
Do we need to tell them that there's smoking's only on the exterior ramps?
yeah. And Dave came shooting past. He signed off. I'm going, wait, I'm the only one here.
Listen and subscribe to Rye Bread and Mustard, a Mariners podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
So they're in the midst of this losing streak, and the Mariners go, "Our 2025 spring training schedule has arrived. Check out the full slate of games in Arizona." This was their fucking post. They were showing the Cactus League schedule. This was their post. So since the last time we talked, too, also Ricky Henderson has passed away. That was huge during Christmas. We didn't talk during that time. Ricky Henderson, what's your biggest Ricky Henderson memory of Ricky Henderson?
Well, I used to see him play a lot. Unfortunately for me was, I was really young, and I kind of, even at that age, I wasn't paying attention to every part of the game, or even being there, and probably still took it for granted. So, I can't say that I remember anything other than, him stealing and just knowing that he was a superstar. But I say my biggest memory is when the Yankees traded him. I remember walking into the bathroom, and it's the first time I ever saw my dad cry.
Over the trade of Ricky Henderson?
Yeah.
It's amazing. I have so many Ricky Henderson memories, but I just remember before there was Ken Griffey Jr., my favorite player was Alvin Davis, but the superstar guy that you were just jealous of and hurt you, especially being a Mariners fan, how many times we played the A's, was Ricky Henderson. But there was nothing cooler than Ricky Henderson's neon Mizuno batting gloves. Those were the things you wanted to have in Little League, like the big puffy ones, green ones, or the orange ones. Those were that was the shit.
I had the blue ones eventually. I had Mizuno blue puffy. I even had the Mizuno glove that had the puff on the outside. I had the blue on blue.
What are your thoughts on the passing of Ricky Henderson and what Ricky Henderson meant to you and your memories as a kid watching baseball?
Yeah, definitely a couple things. I mean, the first thing I think of is watching him at the Dome. Obviously, the all-time stolen base leader. He was fantastic at it. But just noticing how he would get his lead off, few steps off the dirt, get 1 foot on the carpet, slide a little bit, and then get his lead with actually both feet on the carpet at the Kingdom and taking off and spiping it just easily. The whole crowd knew he was stealing. The Mariners knew he was stealing, and he was just a fantastic base runner. And then besides that, 2 more things what I remember about Ricky, besides what you guys mentioned about his batting gloves, I mean, never will forget those. I mean, everybody who had a pair of those, was so jealous of those guys. I mean, really cool puffy batting gloves. Never seen anything like him at that age. But, the leadoff home runs that he had, I mean, he was just spectacular. What a player. Just kind of was a player that was so athletic even before his time, before all these other guys came around, like you mentioned, Griffey and those kind of players. And then the third thing is Ricky doing his interviews, always talking about himself in the third person. Ricky had a good game tonight. Ricky being Ricky, just the way he always talked about himself. I mean, it's just classic, and one thing I'll never forget about him.
Well, how much I've enjoyed MLB's last dive bar, and of course for Oakland fans, losing Ricky Henderson and the Oakland A's. It's got to be the worst Christmas for the Bay Area, especially for Bay Area sports fans. But then at the same time, in a weird way, it's very apropos that you're never going to have to see Ricky Henderson, do Oakland A's stuff, for the Las Vegas A's.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with the field being named after him down there in Oakland, seeing him at the last game down there at the Coliseum in Oakland, and it makes me think about when he got signed with the Mariners. He just never looked right in a Seattle Mariner uniform, but he still was able, even at his older age, to show some glimpses of the old Ricky, getting on a first pitch fastball and hitting it out of the yard. Didn't have the wheels as he once did, but still was able to hit a home run in a Mariner uniform. But it was just so weird to see how he looked in it.
Yeah, it just reminded me of like on the video games when you just build these super teams. That's what it reminded me of. And I love the clip of him and Griffey exchanging the gloves during the old timers game, or not old timers game, the turn back the clock game in Seattle where they shared a glove. The other thing I was going to say about Ricky Henderson is he also leads all players in runs. Like he's the number one run guy. So that's the whole point of baseball. And then here's the eerie thing about this. The last stadium, unless he went to some playoff games, the last stadium public appearance he made was at T-Mobile Park, where he threw out the first pitch with the half Mariners, half Oakland A's jersey here.
That's right.
162. So I don't know if he went to any other games and stuff like that. And look, he didn't have to make the half Mariners, half A's jersey. If he'd have went out there in his Oakland A's thing, that would have been totally fine. But that just shows you what kind of class act and type of entertainer he was.
Yeah, you're right. He was an entertainer. Yeah, that's right. Because Oakland finished up their home stand or their final home game, the series right before the Mariners, and then they came up to finish off the season. Good memory, man. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, you're exactly right. The first last time in a major league ballpark was probably a T-Mobile. That's so crazy to think about.
Well, let's make a promise. Let's do something just on Ricky Henderson. We could do like an hour on him. I swear. Just looking at stuff and checking stuff out. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Definitely.
When you think about the Mariners, you have to think about the money. That's the only way you can think about the Mariners.
The biggest impact, if we make an impact, is going to come with the trade. That's just the truth.
But here's the thing. That's not right because you guys aren't the Pittsburgh Pirates. You guys You guys aren't the Marlins. You guys aren't Tampa. By the fan base and the money spent, and you guys got 32 different jerseys. You guys got more colorways than like the Jordans, and people are buying the shit. I've been there. I go to Seattle every year. You couldn't tell me that you guys have made the playoffs once in the new millennium. With the revenue sharing and the money that you're making on your own, you guys are in the top. So yes, Yankee fan, rich kid, whatever you want to call it. To me, there's no reason why you guys shouldn't be saying, all right, we're adding $30 million if there's a guy that fits that you like, and be like, fuck it.
You're absolutely right. Everything you said is
You got-
correct.
Before we recorded here, we lost the great Bob Uecker. That one's huge. Major League, the movie, Major League, one of my favorite movies. Probably, it's really hard to say what's your favorite baseball movie, but like adult style, adult language, adult rated R baseball movies, that's got to be the best movie. And you could not have that movie without the announcer Harry Doyle whatsoever.
Yeah, man, those movies are just, well-made classics, man. Stand the test of time. They hit every trope in baseball. The vain veteran, the unsure of himself phenom. The Ricky Henderson diva type. Even in the second one, they had the Japanese player.
Yeah. The second one is actually not that bad. The Back to the Minors is not one that I particularly liked, but I
don't
also
know if I've
just kind
seen
of there's too many new people in it. But yeah, the first two movies, I mean, number one is one of the best movies, period, point blank, when it comes to
I think I've
baseball.
seen
And then the
part two
second,
the most.
you've seen part two of Major League more than you've seen
Just
number one.
because there was a point in time in high school where it was on like, HBO all the time or something like that. And it was good enough to watch all the time. And baseball was really popping in the mid 90s. So
I will say they put that movie out. You're right. You might have seen that more on cable and things like that, because I think the second movie is PG-13. I think they knew that they had something, and then I don't think this the follow up is rated R. But yeah, Bob Uecker. I used to watch as a kid, watch the reruns too. Mr. Belvedere, I remember him on there, and then I also was talking
legend.
to
And for
the
him to be the voice, I mean, was he doing that at the same time?
you mean baseball and doing sitcoms, Hollywood stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. That's interesting to see how he did that. And of course, he was a huge spokesman for all the Miller Lite commercials. In fact, if you go to USA Today and you put in Bob Uecker USA Today, they have all of his Miller Lite ads in an article, which are great. Which one of them I was watching, I seen a young John Goodman in it. But I was telling you, maybe my favorite performance, or not favorite performance, my if you want to find a performance and you can sit through it, watch WrestleMania 3 and WrestleMania 4. Bob Uecker is like the special, I believe he's the guest ring announcer. And in both episodes, WrestleMania 3 and WrestleMania 4, sure, he's there. He's interviewing Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. And these were both two huge mega WrestleManias at the time when wrestling was absolutely big. This was 1987 and 1988. Those are the years if you want to go look them up. But his storyline in both WrestleManias was he was there as an announcer, like I mentioned, and but his storyline was that he was hunting down whatever like woman that they brought in to be like the guest timekeeper or whatever. And so in WrestleMania 3, he's just looking around the Pontiac Silverdome the whole entire WrestleMania for Vanna White. And then in WrestleMania 4, it's held at Trump Plaza Hotel Casino in Atlantic City, and he's trying to hunt down Mary Hart from Entertainment Tonight. So I don't know if it gets any more perverted 1980s, late
80s
80s than that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just talk about a perfect voice,
Yeah.
and then to have the humor with it. So like, I mean, he probably has just as much to do with those movies being good in his role as the announcer as everybody else in it.
All right, Hanno. So your thoughts on Bob Uecker and his passing?
Yeah, one thing is I know I'm getting old. To see when this got reported, to see that Bob Uecker was 90 years old. I mean, just totally blows my mind. But yeah, first memories are definitely. I didn't know he was a baseball announcer or had anything to do with it. I just first saw Bob Uecker when I was a kid, like you mentioning, seeing Mr. Belvedere. That's kind of how I remembered him. And then, like you mentioned, he did those beer commercials that were so good. And then, probably until I got into my teens, I didn't realize that, you know, he was the announcer for the Milwaukee Brewers, which just made sense to me with them being the Brewers. And like I said, those great beer commercials. He always seemed like such a character, and you go back and hear stories about him. I saw a clip of Howard Stern and those guys talking about him. And he's just kind of a happy-go-lucky, real funny, foul-mouthed guy that just made people laugh. And it's funny to me to think about that now, that my first memories of him are Mr. Belvedere, of all things, you know. But so sad. He was an icon for the Brewers. I saw a post of Mike Cameron when he played with the Brewers. He talked about how special of a guy Bob Uecker was, and he will be missed. But he lived a long life. I mean, 90 years old. What a guy.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff of people sharing memories. One of our good friends and good friends of the show, the great PA announcer for Seattle Mariners, Mr. Tom Hutler. I went on our logged into our Facebook page that we forget about that we have, and the first person on the thread, or I mean on our feed, was Tom Hutler. And you want me to read you what Tom had to say about him? So there's a picture of Tom. Let's see if it's on the YouTube right there. If you are not looking at it, I pulled it up. He says there's a picture of him at T-Mobile Park up in the booth. It looks like it's from 2013. He goes, "What a loss. Bob Uecker passed at the age of 90 today. He was better known after his less than stellar career for his self-deprecating humor regarding his days as a player. He achieved more fame as a broadcaster as well in his appearances on TV and in movies. I met him here when the Brewers were in town in 2013. A great guy who will be missed by all of baseball, so much more. Quote, when we came up to bat with 3 men on and 2 outs in the ninth, I looked over to the other team's dugout and they were already in street clothes." But yeah, that's a great point, is that his whole self-deprecating humor is really what did it.
Yeah.
Did it for him. And yes, I do remember him on Mr. Belvedere. With something like that.
His drum was good.
You gotta love new WWF figures with real wrestling action. Jake the Snake Roberts versus the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Yeah. DiBiase lands a $1 Million punch. Match Hulk Hogan against the Macho King Randy Savage.
Oh, yeah, my almost master finish Hogan guaranteed.
Hogan slams him again. Match Andre the Giant against the Ultimate Warrior. Andre will squash the Ultimate Maniac. WWF figures so close to the real thing, it's like being in the ring.
Yeah. So as of right now, that's pretty much all the news, all the catch-up news. Like we kind of Frankenstein, as I mentioned, this episode together. We'll be back soon, either Sunday or Monday night, unless something big happens, unless we sign, another person out of the grocery outlet bargain market. Hanno, myself, and possibly Big Vlad will be all together at the same time. But again, thanks for liking, subscribing, and all that good shit. We left a lot on the table here today, but we had issues with internet, scheduling, all that shit. Anyways, thanks for liking, subscribing. With that said, Hanno, you know what time it is. All right. That's it, Hanno. I think I got everything.
Yeah, we're having kind of an off season like the M's, a little bumpy.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, man.